The galaxy remembered the siege of Valora 9 as a tragedy. To most, it was just another battle among 1,000. But to Princess Earth of Aelion, it was a day she saw the fragility of life and the humanity within her enemies. She had been barely 17 cycles old then, a royal emissary caught behind enemy lines when her convoy was ambushed. Her guards fell within minutes. The last thing she remembered was a blinding explosion that ripped the night sky apart. When she opened her eyes, she was pinned beneath debris, gasping for breath as smoke choked the stars above her. And then he appeared. A human soldier, mud-streaked, armor cracked, eyes filled with exhaustion and disbelief, Commander Elias Cade. He wasn't supposed to help her. He was her enemy. Yet, when her hand reached weakly toward him, he didn't pull his blaster. He dropped his weapon and lifted the shattered beam trapping her. "Stay still," he had said, voice steady despite the chaos. "You'll live if I get you out before the next strike." She remembered the feel of his arms, the warmth of his uniform, the sound of his heartbeat against her ear as he carried her through burning metal and falling ash. And she remembered the moment he placed her in the hands of her people's medics and disappeared into the smoke, without a name, without a word. That was 10 years ago, and yet she had never forgotten his face. The Royal Archives of Aelion Prime held records of every battle, every casualty. For years, Soraya searched, quietly and obsessively. Her father, the Emperor, had forbidden her from dwelling on a human soldier, but her heart refused to obey. The man who had saved her had vanished from every database, as if he'd been erased from existence, until the day the Council of Stars announced a new diplomatic mission, a peace delegation from Earth. When the human envoy arrived on Aelion, she recognized him instantly, though time had left its marks. His once short hair was streaked with silver, his expression colder, more burdened. But those eyes, those were the same eyes that had once looked down at her through smoke and light. "Commander Elias Cade," the announcer declared, representative of the Earth Coalition. He bowed with practiced precision, every inch the soldier-turned statesman. But when his gaze met hers across the glittering hall, his composure faltered, only for a heartbeat. But she saw it. Recognition. After the ceremony, she found him standing alone on one of the palace terraces, overlooking the luminous sea below. "You remember me," she said softly. Elias froze. The faintest smile tugged at his lips. "I hoped you'd forget. It would have been safer." She stepped closer, her gown whispering across the marble. "You saved my life. And then you vanished." "I was ordered to," he replied. "The war didn't need heroes from the wrong side." He exhaled, his voice quieter now. "I didn't think I'd ever see you again, Princess." They met again and again, each time under the guise of diplomatic briefings. But as the weeks passed, formality faded. He told her stories of Earth, of oceans that breathed and skies that burned with dawnlight. She showed him the hidden gardens of Aelion, where the plants sang at night and the moons bloomed like pearls. There was laughter between them, quiet moments where the galaxies seemed smaller, and the weight of titles and species disappeared. Yet, beneath it all, unspoken truth simmered. Her father would never allow it, a princess and a human soldier. And Elias knew that his government would brand him a traitor if they ever learned what his heart whispered each time she smiled. But love, once born, doesn't yield to reason. One night, during a formal reception beneath the Star Dome, Soraya slipped away. Elias found her standing before the great cosmic window, starlight painting her in silver. "Do you ever wish," she said, "that peace didn't need permission?" He stepped closer. "Every day." Her eyes glistened. "Then let this moment be ours, if nothing else." He hesitated. Then, for the first time, he allowed himself to touch her hand. Her skin shimmered faintly under his warmth, their pulses sinking like a binary star finding its twin. For a brief eternity, the war, the laws, the galaxies between them ceased to exist. But love cannot hide forever. Rumors spread. The Emperor's advisors whispered a betrayal of a human manipulating the royal bloodline. Elias was ordered to leave the planet immediately. Guards surrounded him before dawn, and Soraya awoke to find his quarters empty, his presence erased from the palace as though he had never existed. For months, she searched. Her father locked her within the royal citadel, calling it protection. Yet in her heart, she knew what it truly was, a gilded prison to silence her love. Until, 1 year later, the galaxy trembled once more. An assassination attempt struck during the Treaty of Valora aimed not at her father, but at her. A plasma round ripped through the chamber wall, sending chaos into the air. The guards fell, and in the blur of panic, she saw him again. Elias, battle-scarred, defying every order, every rule. He shielded her with his own body, taking the blast that would have ended her life. As the smoke cleared, she cradled him in her arms, the way he once had held her. "Why?" she cried. He smiled weakly, blood glimmering like starlight on his armor. "Because I promised myself I'd never let you fall again." Her tears fell onto his chest, glowing faintly as they mixed with his blood. Aelion tears, they said, could heal if born from true grief. She didn't believe it, until his breathing steadied beneath her touch. When his eyes opened again, she whispered, trembling, "You came back." "I never left," he said softly. "Not really." That night, the Emperor himself arrived in the med bay. He looked upon the human who had saved his daughter twice and, for the first time, bowed his head. "You have my gratitude," he said, "and my respect. But this bond cannot exist." Soraya stood, defiance burning in her gaze. "You may rule the stars, Father, but you cannot command the heart." Her words echoed through the chamber, silencing the court, silencing even the Emperor himself. When the peace treaty was signed weeks later, an amendment was added, a clause allowing cross-species unions under diplomatic immunity. The galaxy's most ancient barrier shattered quietly, written not in ink but in love. Years passed. The stars moved on, but the legend remained, of a human soldier and an alien princess whose love changed the course of empires. And on quiet nights, when the nebulae shimmered just right, if one listened closely near the Aelion coast, they could hear laughter carried on the wind, hiss and haze, as if the stars themselves remembered the confession that silenced them forever.